When Stephen first talked to me about AI, it was very, very secretive, no script, very little information. It was described as kind of a search for love using all of the tools that the effects world might offer, which of course piques me. Mostly approach him as a director. And I very much test and photograph and go to him and just visually get a reaction from him. That was my whole approach on AI. I didn't have a list of things I was going to do. We would talk about Flesh Fair. We would talk about the excavation pit. We would talk about the moon ship. We would talk about, and I'd see some pictures, and I would start building. And I would start showing Stephen. And Stephen would say, more, less, yeah, that's perfect. And I'd say, let me show you a test. And I probably pretty much went through the whole movie showing him either digital stills or digital video of what I was doing, so that his options remained open in what he was going to do. And the one great thing about working with Stephen is I always feel like all of my efforts go on the screen. In Flesh Fair, Stephen came up with this idea that we would have a couple of cannons. And we had much like a ring, like a Colosseum affair, if you will. And out of the cannons have to shoot two people who travel 50 yards, who go through a ring, who catch on fire, and then hit 12-foot spinning metal blades, bust up into pieces, and land on stage where this heavy metal group Ministry is playing. Yes, we're lighting the ring. And I told him just one day as a kind of a lark that I thought we could do this live action. And we did. Stan built some robots, some dummies for us that were fiberglass. And we purposely put very little insides in them. And we put them on a cable and used a ratchet and pulled them out of the cannon, pulled them through the ring, trailing a wire, had suits and clothes made out of flash paper that would ignite.
We gotta get the arms on there.
Then literally had a burning projectile that flew into spinning metal blades that busted up into hundreds of pieces and flew all over. And we had to do this inside a ring with 800 extras and a live playing band on stage. So just from a standpoint of danger, I had to test it.
Sir, ready?
I had to get the fire department involved, tell them what kind of a safety circle we needed.
I am the body electric.
Talk to the band, talk to the actors.
Okay, this shot right here features all of you.
Talk to everybody, tell them where they could be, and really not miss. And we got through the whole thing without any kind of a hazard. Rouge City was a good example of how working with the art department pays off. I needed a track down the center of the street in Rouge City, and Rick was nice enough to put a line down the center, which meant before we built the set, I was able to build in a track with an endless cable that would pull a motion base. On top of that motion base, we hand-assembled the amphibicopter, which is a helicopter which flies above land and underwater. So we could travel a motion base and have a spinning helicopter and travel it the whole length of Rouge City with people in it, with extras in it, and not run off the track or not hit anybody. We could predictably make the move. We knew exactly where it was going to go. Even though it looked like it was out of control, we knew where it would start, where it would stop, how many turns it would take. We could put the camera in it. We could photograph it going by. And the whole thing weighed about 6,000 pounds.
Stay clear, please. Okay, here we go.
So you don't want to hit anything, you don't want to run into anything, and you certainly don't want to go past your stops and run into the stage wall. So just that by itself was just another whole section of the film that we had to take under our wing and do. then we'll paint out the motion base, and you'll have a flying helicopter that's 6 feet off the ground that flies through a group of people, and it's all there for real. So it's about as much as what you take out of the film as what you put into the film.
Destination
Manhattan.
In the ice excavation scene, we went through about 8 tons of real ice a day. One of the things that we didn't want to settle for was a fake look. So everything had to be dripping, everything had to be wet, everything had to, and this is a key part of the movie where the Blue Fairy exists. So it was made to look as though literally it had been there for thousands of years, and the set itself was really constructed and then covered with real ice. Every morning, 3 hours before shooting, real ice was brought in so that it would melt realistically. And every time it got down to a point where it wasn't quite right, we would add more. And you don't see that very often. Most people would opt to use fake ice. But in this case, it's such an important part of the movie, and the look is so different that we went to the extent of really doing it for real. The great thing about AI is I don't think that there's one effect in that movie that's not cutting edge. I think that everything had to be so fit into the story. And we took it to a level in Rouge City on our blue screen stage where there's work that has never been done before. It is beyond cutting edge. It just goes way beyond anything you've ever seen. It will not be a traditionally made movie, and it will not look traditional.
When you become a real boy, remember me to the ladies when you grow up.
And I think it will hold up for a long time.
I am.
Good. Very nice. That was a great reading.